Coming to you live is the Auto Hub Show, changing automotive one show at a time with Ian and Jeff. And here we go.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions in routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding in a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
Our goals are always to improve. Every month we want to improve better on what we did the month before, maybe the year before. It's about how fast we can get the cars done with quality work to get it to the front line, because that's where we make our money. And the bottom line is the longer it takes, the more money you spend. We want to get it down as low as possible. Right now, like I said, we're in a great stage. We're at 4.5 days. In recon, we want to know how quickly we can get the cars out of the recon process and to the front line. The average days in recon and then the time to line are the most important things that we look for. I'm Mike Burrell. I'm Service Director at JM Lexus.
Larry Feldman is probably the most amazing trainer that I've ever experienced in this business. I've been in the car business now for 35 years, and I've seen quite a few trainers. A lot of them are pretty good. I mean, really, I get something out of all of them that I've seen, really. But Larry is in another class. I really mean that. His training is literally riveting. A little while back, I sat in on his first training that I ever sat in on. It was for new hires. I still remember. I'll never forget it. About 25 people in the room who'd never sold cars before. And after 2 hours, I raised my hand and Larry stopped what he was doing and said, yes. And I said, maybe we should take a break. And literally, I'll never forget it. All 25 people turned around, looked at me and went, well, we're okay. And he kept going for another 2 hours. Since then, I've seen a few other of his trainings. I've hired people out of his classes. All I can say is, you got to give him a try.
All right, Jeff. So here we go on our disclaimer.
Our disclaimer is the views and opinions shared on this podcast are that of our guests and not necessarily that of the Auto Hub Show, Ian or Jeff. And but then again, Tara's so cool. I think we might agree with her.
Rock and roll and welcome. So go ahead, Jeff.
Good afternoon, coming to you from the foyer of the Used Car Week 2022 at beautiful San Diego, where it should be Sun Diego. And joining us today, this afternoon, this one is our new good friend from Polly. I was going to make a joke. It's Polly from Tara, but it's Tara. I don't know, Tara. Tara from Polly, formerly Dealer Policy, although they're dropping that. Tara, please say hi, introduce yourself, tell us a bit about you and the company. But before that, you'll notice right in front of her is an award for women leadership in retail. And I got to tell you something. It's I look forward to the day when it's not such a big deal.
Yeah,
But right now it is.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was honored to receive the award today, and it was interesting. The cohort of women who received this award, I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a minute, but it was all around just the digital car buying experience from beginning to end in the retail process. And so many of the women who are recognized are leaders in the industry of each of those points in the retail car buying process. And when you think about what Poly does, we're bringing insurance solutions to dealers for their car buyers during the car buying process in a digital way. So I'd say we are pioneers for sure in how we're inserting ourselves into this space. And the first time that we are being recognized, and a company that provides a service like this being recognized as a critical part in the car buying process. So pretty big deal.
Yep. Oh, for sure. You know, we come from, those of us who watch us know we're from Vancouver, Canada. Yay!
Yay.
And where we come from, this process, it's because we have government insurance, has actually been around for 30 odd years.
Really?
Where we actually
Wow.
have an agent, you can do your insurance. But I know too many other places is they make the deal, they sign them up, they leave, they go to get their tags or whatever they call it wherever they are, you know, and then all of a sudden, where are they?
Yes.
Where,
Yeah.
hello? They're not answering their phone. Wasn't them driving by in that car? But so tell me something. You know, you're here. Not like Polly doesn't have a booth or anything here. What other than getting that award, which you solely deserve, got nothing to do with the company,
Oh,
nothing to do
thank
with
you.
Rennie or any of those other people.
Not
there,
Rennie
the CEO.
Seahas.
No, what is he?
We
Just
should be
a-
getting a few likes now that I mentioned his name.
Exactly. Rennie's a great benevolent golfer type guy. But what other than that, what's your big reason for being here?
Well, I'm definitely honored to be part of another component of the automotive sector, and particularly one that's seeing a nice infusion of young female leaders who are leading the charge with emerging vendors who are in this space. I'd say 50% of the vendors are probably new to the automotive industry within the last 24 months as I'm walking the exhibit hall and seeing so many women representing them as owners, partners, CEOs, founders. I've been in the industry a long time, and it's just wonderful to see that.
Yeah, for sure, Ian.
How long? Just curious, like 5 years?
1998.
Oh, okay.
When she was 6.
When I was 6.
So, I mean, obviously we were at the driving sales conference in Las Vegas, but we were also at the used car week in Toronto. Both, I think, had a Women in Auto award ceremony of some type, obviously larger here in the U.S. market. And obviously this has been going on for a while. What do you see has changed in that segment over the last, say, 5 years?
You know, it's interesting. I attended a Women in Retail panel event yesterday here at the forum. And one of the questions asked of the 6 ladies up on stage was, why did you choose to go into the automotive industry? And 2 things jumped out at me. One was a woman who said, I didn't choose. The opportunity became apparent to me as people were approaching me and asking me to be GSM of the dealership. So that's a big honor. She runs a Porsche dealership here in California. And I just the her perspective of I didn't choose. It was an opportunity that presented itself to me, and it just made a lot of sense, and I've enjoyed every minute of the ride. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the second one was a lady on stage who has only been in the industry 2 years. And how cool it was with the confidence that she had to go up on stage and represent what's happening in this industry when she's only been in it 2 years. That's definitely saying something, because I think, you know, probably a couple decades ago, the expectation was that you had to have a couple of decades to have some street cred and some chops to get up on stage and say things that people are willing to listen to. So for me, those are some interesting observations just over the last couple of days. Of course, there are a lot of things going on in the microeconomic sectors affecting our industry and our car buyers and our dealers, but those were just some unique observations.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, we were in driving sales, as I said, and there was a woman in an auto event, and they actually had a speaker who was a former U.S. Olympic cyclist, sharing her experience as she went from first in the world at the last 15 seconds of the race and went to fourth, and was sort of talking a little bit about what that meant for her, but more importantly, what she learned from it. But the more interesting thing in the room, I think, one of the few men in the room, there were several, but it's a mentoring program, and there were really, younger women wanting to reach out to older women, and there's, I think, a part of their management team is male, I believe, but it was really interesting because there was a lot of younger women who really were looking for mentors or to be mentees, and it was really, really interesting from that point of view. But it was interesting to see sort of the scale of the awards this time versus what I've seen in the past, at least in my brief experience.
Yep. Well, I have to tell you, I understand, I have the comprehension, but it really does confuse me why there aren't more women in the business. We've seen the data, 89.998, probably 99.998% of decisions are affected by a female person. And it doesn't matter whom it is. It could be a mother, it could be a friend, whatever. They affect that. And men, as a man, we bounce our female relationships. That's how we bounce our opinions. The guys, we know how guys are going to go, yeah, man, that's cool, or whatever. But every single woman that I've ever worked with, collaborated with, or whatever in the business, that has stayed through those first few months is a superstar. I mean, really, maybe not a superstar that they get called to talk on the stage, because there's only so many people. But they're good at what they do. They know their stuff. And truly, my wife was in life insurance for years, and she could look somebody in the eye and say, are you going to do it or not? And they would say, okay.
Yeah.
If I were to do that, a rather large, bald guy, which I've been for too many years, if I were to say that, the guy'd go, yeah, the heck with you, goodbye.
Yeah.
And it's
all
amazing.
right, you're looking for the woman decoder ring, right?
Exactly.
I'll tell you what it is. Tell you what it is. I've mentored a lot of people in my career, and some men, some women. I don't care, right? If you're looking for some tips, I'll help you out. And, and I certainly don't need the label of mentor and you mentee. That makes it awkward sometimes for the relationship. But here's the reality for me. Two things. One, when I go in and meet with dealer owners, and those are generally my clients, historically they tend to be men. But over the years, what I've seen is they've begun really creating their succession plan, and daughters are becoming a very critical part of that succession plan. Yeah. Their sons too, but they're definitely leaning into the talented women within their family to take the baton and run it and take it into that next generation, more so now than I have seen in the past. So that's pretty cool. But I will tell you also my decoder ring part.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. When I've grown up in a male-dominated industry, and there are a lot of egos, right? That you have to be very careful around, reading the nonverbals, working with the body language to articulate your message in a way where it resonates and you're able to influence to a yes. And each person is different in that conversation, but I do find that when I observe two men, say a man on my team or a partner on my team in a conversation, egos start escalating.
No.
Chests start thumping and the ears start shutting down. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough that I realize sometimes that just can't be productive.
Yeah.
It could be fun, sometimes fun to watch, but oftentimes not productive. And so I find that when I sit down with a dealer owner and we've not met before, for a minute, for a hot second, they're speechless. Mm-hmm. They are. They're like, oh, okay, where do I go from here? What do I do with this?
Well, men Men generally do not know how to handle a assertive, knowledgeable woman. We just don't.
Well, right. I mean, you said it, and but then so I realized the first reaction is, whoa, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to say. I'll say nothing, right? So what have I accomplished? The ego now is not part of it.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a big win. And then secondly, what I need to do is help that person get comfortable with me.
Oh, you have
Help,
to.
yeah, help that person trust me, and open up in a way that's kind of vulnerable. That's hard for a guy to do, a dealer owner particularly. And so through the years, just working through my style and my technique, where I get to that point of little vulnerability, some trust. Hey, Tara, man, these are the things that I've been dealing with, and it could be the product I'm bringing. Oh, it's not you, Tara. It's the product. Well, let's get over that. Let's talk about how we can turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
Make some lemonade out of lemons, and generally it's successful. And I just find that as a female in the industry, it's a tactic that can be used carefully, thoughtfully, in a way that a lot of times a male counterpart is not able to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, there's no question that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Years ago, I had a job where I did a lot of call center training and setup and repairing call centers, and the vast majority of the staff I was training were women because they were much better at it than most men were because they were able to handle the volume, learn the process, follow it very well, and adapt on the fly. Whereas a lot of the men I trained just weren't up to the challenge. But ironically, you didn't run into a lot, at least at the time, of female-run call centers. So there tended to be a male manager, and it was funny because I did a project with Mercedes-Benz Canada at the time. They owned most of the dealers in our market and also in the Toronto market. And they had the vast majority of their customers in the Vancouver market happen to be Asian, and they speak Mandarin or Cantonese. So they had the whole sales BDC spoke Mandarin or Cantonese. But the gentleman who managed them didn't even speak that language.
Oh.
Which was kind of interesting. But more importantly, it was interesting just from a strictly management decision perspective. And on the service side, luckily for them, they did have a more diverse team. But it was very interesting that even the manufacturer, when running a series of retail locations, virtually all of them, still didn't quite get that decision-making process in a market where essentially, I think close to 90% of their clients were Asian.
Oh, wow.
So it was a very big number, and I'm sure in Toronto it was different, but it was interesting that even from a manufacturer's standpoint, at the time, and this was 8 or 9 years ago, there was a disconnect. And it was funny because I thought that if they had just promoted maybe one of the women who'd been doing it for a while, it probably would have been a better run organization. That's just my observation.
Well, and one more thing to bolt onto that, since we're sharing the decoder ring secrets. This is something that's very provocative, a statement that I'm going to make that's very provocative.
Do I have to mention the disclaimer again?
Probably.
The views and opinion. No, go ahead.
It is complicated for men to work with women. I mean, a lot has happened over the last couple of years that I think has created noise and tension and discomfort and a gap with men getting comfortable having women in that close space of problem solving, working together, driving results, just because of perceived risk, actual risk, and that makes it that I think that may set us back a little bit. And I think that as adults, we all need to find a way to continue to get through that, if you know what I mean, and realize we're all in this together. We're rolling up our sleeves, putting points on the board, and just put gender aside and just get the damn job done.
Well, men in general, part of that trouble too is the car business can be an old boys club. And I don't
Yeah.
necessarily mean an exclusionary club, but a lot of men will feel uncomfortable high-fiving a lady. They certainly,
Doing us.
a manager has a real problem. On a guy they can look at, and they know they're almost safe by going, look at you, dirty rotten son of a gun. You screwed up. You blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And they're scared to do that with a woman, and they should be, because in all my years of supervising people, I've only had probably 7 people tell me the word no as a subordinate. And 9 of those 7 people were women. Because
Well, hopefully they said, no, I think there's a better way, and here's what it is.
no.
I said, no.
And because guys they came across fearless. And I think for a woman to make it in a man's world, you have to have a certain level of fearlessness. Because if you have fear, then the bullies, which isn't all men, it's only a small portion, the bullies will walk all over you. And just like when we train in the retail world to deal with the hard-nosed customers, you have to get good at hard-nosed customers to know how to deal with everybody else.
Right.
But you have to be able to have the smarts to differentiate.
Yeah.
Whereas the women early on, now I think it's way different now. But earlier on, it would be a real problem. They had to be hard-nosed because many guys resisted it.
Well, I still remember the early days of the show, and we said we were going to do a show on women in automotive, and this was almost 3 years ago. And we had a number of our listeners saying, well, that's really not a good idea. You really shouldn't do that, and it's actually not something we'd recommend. And we've been doing the shows for a long time, but what's interesting is when we have a mix of guests, not just women on the show, but we have a mix. Generally, the female guests tend to set the tone, but the funny thing before, when we did the first show, was not only were the women very strong on the show, they got together before the show and talked about what they were going to discuss and how they were going to discuss. It was very interesting. So it was very different from shows that we've done. Yeah, it was very interesting.
It was so good. I couldn't describe it because they almost collaborated.
It was almost like choreographed.
Yeah. But literally they kind of got to know each other, and then one goes, I tell you, you're so good at that because I checked yours out. Oh, thank you, because I checked you out. Whereas guys will go, yeah, oh, nice to meet you, man. Hey, bro,
And also,
Unless you have Renee Seahas.
Yes,
well, also on some of the competitive shows, it was kind of interesting where you'd have 2 companies that were similar, and if the companies happened to be represented by women on the show, they'd tend to work together differently, which was kind of interesting. But we did have an interesting smackdown with a gentleman from Google and a gentleman from Digital Airstrike where they were comparing survey sizes, which was kind of funny.
Like number of customers who were sampled or surveyed in the
so
their sample size.
Google was like, oh, it was like 4,500 customers, and the gentleman from Digital Airstrike was like, oh, well, ours is bigger than yours was.
Oh, by the way, both those companies are fictitious. We made those names up. Well, it's funny too. The other thing we have is our women-related shows have got great feedback and great attendance. Guess what our worst attended shows are? This is the car business. Remember that. Now, you don't know all of our topics.
I'm not even going to try to guess.
We'll
You
do
tell
variable, We'll do fixed ops. We'll do
Electric
suppliers,
cars.
Electric cars, etc.
Used cars.
HR is the show that's
HR.
the worst. Nobody listens to it.
Nobody-
Nobody pays attention. Nobody cares. We have some great people like Sandy Zanino from
Florida.
We know from Sarasota.
Yep.
And she's outstanding. She's very much on the DEI side of things. And
That's funny. One of my secret wishes is that one day I get invited to an HR office party, like Christmas party, where they don't know I'm there.
Disclaimer.
It's just all the HR people, and they're talking about all the crazy stories.
well, it's very funny because one thing I noticed today, one lady in the group that you were up on, and by the way, I do have to comment that yesterday, I'm losing track of days here, yesterday or Monday, they did top 40 under 40 dealers.
Yeah.
And there were only about between 15 and 18 people there.
Really?
The other 20-something people did not deem this worthy enough to be here. Now, if we take out a certain percentage, they weren't allowed to come because many of these people are dealers, are dealer principal, not owners, and they're told they can't. But all these other people, if I got an award, I'd take holiday time because somebody chose me and said, "Hey, we're talking the United States. We're not talking the Central Republic of Bongo. You know, that's a big deal. But here, wow, were there a lot of women?
The room was packed.
Holy cow!
It was a ballroom, and it was packed.
And when when
was
everybody
impressed.
stood up, it
was
like
yeah,
the old days of
it was
the
very
Apple
cool.
phone when they introduced a new phone.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Around that corner, down there, gee, around the spotlight, over there. Oh, wait a minute, there's more. It was like the lineup for the airport to get here.
It was like the Titanic movie lineup when people wanted to see that movie.
Yeah.
Even though they knew the ending.
Yeah, of course, these days nobody lines up for a movie. We either stream it or go in there.
That's
but,
true.
I noticed there was a lady that came up, and her title was Director of People. And the titles, you know, HR is somebody, to me, HR is somebody you go to and say, my boss looked at me funny. He's not a very nice person, or she's mean to me. Director of People, same job.
Yes.
But it's a little more something you can approach. And I'm seeing all sorts of, I think a good would be the chief person.
Chief person?
Chief person.
Not person officer,
Yeah.
just
No,
chief person. Okay.
We have our chief people officer at Poly. She's amazing, Kristen Halpin-Perry, and she goes at it from the context of people aren't resources, people are people, and when you're creating policies, visions, strategies around your company that your people are contributing to that and they're building it, it's really creating a human organization. And I'm seeing newer companies emerge with more of that people backdrop than human resource backdrop.
Well, exactly. I do have to say that we feel a bit of a kinship to Poly. We were on your podcast stage at NADA.
Which was amazing.
Oh, it was beyond.
It was a blast.
So cool. It was so much fun, and but I got to know so many people there. You know, Jeremy, Rennie, everybody, and everybody was terrific.
Did you meet our founder, Travis Fitzgerald, and co-founder Jeff Mungeon?
I think I met
Jeff was
Jeff.
on stage with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was not just us. It was Lou and Fred. Shout out to the Car Guy Coffee guys.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And it was so much fun, and
people didn't want to leave. Podcasters were just lining up and watching their peer podcasters doing podcasts on our stage. It was pretty cool.
you know, and then somebody walked by, and you'd say, "Hey, come here,"
And
you
you
know,
snag
pull them
one.
up, and it was really nice, and we really felt it was nice for us to feel close to somebody because we're kind of outsiders trying to get inside, but we felt part of a
Right.
big team, which was
Yeah.
thank you that meant a lot, and you and I chatted a lot there too, and I had you sitting up on the panel with everybody.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
so that
was
very
fun.
good.
I'd never done a podcast before. It was my first podcast.
So what have you learned since?
I was nervous.
Oh, you were not. You were not. You couldn't be nervous, and if you were, no one would ever know.
I hit it, I guess.
Well, you know, it's so funny too because I think the term podcast is like saying insurance, okay? Because insurance is something, you know, but there's holy cow, you represent what, like 7 trillion different carriers?
Over 40.
Over 40.
Which
7
the
trillion.
answers are right, I guess.
And
Maybe there's room for expansion there.
Let me see, and I'm sure you represent 2 animal company. Then you represent the lady with the headband company.
Yeah, all the carriers we can't say, I guess, on here, but I mean we represent just about every well-known brand in the industry, bringing choice to car buyers.
But I asked for a stuffed emu, and nobody would give it to me. I
Oh,
was
really?
so
Oh,
upset.
wow. Well, you know what's interesting is 4 of our most prominent carriers were at NADA with us in our booth. We had a huge booth, and
Yes.
we had each quadrant was like the blank corner, and then the blank corner, and then the blank corner, because more and more dealers are understanding that insurance is that final frontier of solving for a car buyer's need in a way that satisfies them but brings revenue to the dealership. And as a result of that awareness, they've done a lot of research. The dealer has. They've even tried a few things that have failed, or maybe they're still trying to make it work. And what I loved about the fact that we had not only exciting podcasters like you at our booth,
Of course.
but these 4 insurance carrier representatives was that as dealers had specific questions around actual insurance questions, right? You wouldn't expect that 5 years ago, but they had actual insurance questions around rates in my state with this carrier. Come on over. Let's have you talk to the actual expert. And you can really do a deep dive right there. And that was a surprise and delight factor, one of many of our booth that went a long way with our dealers.
Exactly. Ian, before you say anything, I have to do this. Insurance, the final frontier. This is the voyage of Polly. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I have a question. I mean, obviously, as we've seen interest rates rise on financing and lease terms, is there more interest from dealers than there has been in getting into insurance to show some savings possibly to the customer or be of service more since this is all happening?
Yeah, there is. Still not as much as you would think. There is this myth out there. The myth is, it's getting smaller, fortunately, but the myth is that if customers know how much it will cost to insure this vehicle, they won't buy this vehicle. So let's pretend like they don't have to really think about insurance until they drive off the lot. At which point you've got the car. It's not, it's not my problem. Fortunately, as I said, that myth and those who believe in that is getting smaller. The reality is this: we just wrapped up a customer survey, sample size of about 2,000. Don't quote me on that, but it's no Google size.
2,000. I just not quoting 2,000.
Yeah. 2,000. Got 2,000. Okay.
And what we learned from prospective car buyers and actual car buyers was 65%. I'm not about throwing out numbers. I think I lose my audience when I throw out numbers, unless we're talking about how much a dealer can make on insurance, and then I get their full attention. They become scientists. But beyond that, 65% of car buyers they have actually researched the full price of ownership of that vehicle, including insurance, before they walk in to test drive that car.
Yeah.
What that means is, here in the States, when you're checking to see how much it will cost you to insure a car, you generally are calling the agent you've been doing business with for 5-10 years. And that agent either represents one brand that could be an inflated premium. You're not getting choice. You're not getting anybody out there competitively bidding for your business. Or it could be an independent agent that represents multiple brands, but that agent is going to quote that car buyer the premium where that agent makes the most commission, right? Oh, I can make $10 if I quote this carrier. I can make $100 if I quote this carrier. Yeah, so Jeff, I've got you this quote, best you can do, and here's what it is. Oh, okay, thanks, right? So you go in and you're test drive that car with that one price. What we enable a dealer to do is, with our 40+ carrier partners, give them choice. That customer gets all those carriers right there on their smartphone with all these quotes, and that's when they can go, wow, I thought it was, I'll pick a number, right? I thought it would be $250 a month to insure this car that I'm coming in to test drive. I realized it could be $150 a month. You know what? Let's go up from the entry level to the mid level, from the mid level to the luxury level. Let's buy some more products on the back end, because now my budget has opened up. And this survey to me is very powerful, because I believed that was the case. I said, I'm pretty sure this is the case, Mr. Dealer. And now I've proven this is the case.
Yeah.
Or Mrs. Dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
What about
Dealer.
Dealer.
What about in the service side of the business, where they have people coming in and maybe their insurance is about to expire, or has expired maybe, but what about that side of the business? Has Polly helped them in the service drive, where the service writer can clearly see, this is eminently going to end the coverage on the car, for example?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we have the ability, dealer has to offer our process during the service drive, maintenance, body shop, BDC, working their CRM, thousands of customers in your CRM, your own employees, quoting your own employees, friends and family.
Yeah.
So it's really an untapped profit center for some of these dealers. I mean, I remember talking to some dealers in the Ontario market and in the Quebec market and other markets in North America, where they were like, oh yeah, we just have a broker. He just comes in.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like,
that's
so
one of the.
What's on that for you? Nothing. Oh, okay.
Exactly. I've got a business card. If somebody needs it, I'll just give them a card, and I hope it works out.
Yeah. Well, it's very funny. we have a lot of themes that seem to be coming out from all the discussions we're having with people just at the show. And one of the themes is, wow, I can hear myself now. One of the themes is a overall profitability for the dealership while taking care of the customer. And we had a discussion with somebody about how the BDC will make an appointment, and sales will enter that in as if they were a fresh person because they're worried that they're going to be they're not going to be given credit for this person, which cuts out the BDC.
Oh.
And then of course they make the deal, and then they're trying to cut out the F&I department because they're afraid the F&I department's going to make money on them. Nobody wants to introduce them to service because they're afraid they're going to tell them about the service intervals, and that might scare them away from the car. They don't want to go to parts to get accessories because that might make the car unsaleable. In the end, you just mentioned another one. Whatever, insurance is fine. They can't deliver a financed car unless they've got insurance. To everything I've ever seen.
Correct.
There might be state
California,
laws.
right? Can you still drive a car in California without insurance?
Oh, it's not without insurance. They just can't deliver it.
Oh,
The
okay.
beauty
On
is
finance.
insurance is legally required in all 50 states to drive a car.
Yeah.
So I represent a product that by law you have to buy.
Yeah,
That's a great place to be in.
I would think so.
Now it's about making my product the most attractive product.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And one thing in the business, we got to stop being scared of the other person. Notice I didn't say the other guy. We got to stop being scared of it. And we'll get back to the women in auto thing. First of all, there was almost nobody. It was a receptionist. Then it became the girl in the back, the business manager.
I still hear that a lot.
Oh boy, that's a tough one to shake.
Yes.
And especially when they're no longer in the back because the new way of doing dealerships
There is no back.
transparency.
Yes,
it's all
there's no
windows,
back, yeah.
And which does bother me that it's now open because somebody's telling somebody, well, they took my car away last year because I couldn't. And the guy next to him goes,
What did she say?
oh my gosh, she's in trouble. But it's the whole thing. And truly, if we stay on the women thing, women generally have more trust, built-in trust, a view of trust.
I believe that.
And
I've never heard that, but
well, no, I mean,
makes sense.
have you ever met anybody with young kids that has a manny?
That has a what?
A manny, a male nanny.
Oh. No, not really.
Yeah, but there are. I mean, it's a real thing. It's not. I didn't make it up. But boy, oh boy, there's an automatic trust for a woman taking care of somebody's kids than a man.
Right.
Because we all think
Yeah.
that boys will be boys. But I thank you very much for taking the time with us. We're not literally
It's a
living.
strange note to end on, but yeah.
I know. Well, because then I looked
I'm
at
thinking,
it. And
should I get a Manny for my dogs? Or
a Manny for dogs is good because men and dogs are way better than women and dogs. I just want you to know. But a Manny for dogs, that'd be good. Hey, dog Manny.
You have a new business idea there.
I do think so.
Yeah.
I got a lot of them here.
Because there's all those mannies who are looking for something to do, and there you go.
Well, actually, I could do a 360 business. I can get the Manny for dogs, and in their cars, I can then introduce a new VIN Air where they can get their car deodorized while going to the car reconditioning company to get
There
them
you go.
there you
cleaned.
go, 360.
I'm-
Invented right here.
And then insurance while they wait, maybe.
They can
Oh,
insure
yeah.
their car while they're getting it deodorized, walking the
See?
dogs.
See, I've got a convert right here. I didn't have to say it. It came out of his mouth.
Why would you go to an insurance agent when you could do it right now while you're having an oil change on your car? Why would you do that?
Well, that would be another one, boy, hitting up those instant oil change companies.
And then
Wow.
you save money on your insurance and your oil change is basically paid for.
Yeah.
Okay, my final question. Why change the name from dealer policy to Polly other than there's something to do with pockets?
It's just another customer survey, right? So as we think about the stickiness of our brand, what resonates so easily? And you think about flow, right? Flow resonates.
Yeah.
Poly really sticks with car buyers. We also recently did a survey about the name, and clearly name recognition was much higher with that very simple, punchy name than long dealer policy. And it was kind of funny. We introduced our new name at NADA,
Yeah.
and our big booth said Polly. We got the booth of the year award by
Yeah,
NADA.
Congratulations.
That was huge. But people would skip by and go, Polly, oh, nice beat. And they'd start skipping. Just kind of has that happiness feel, and it sticks. And even here at the conference, talking with so many people Oh, you're with Poly. Yeah, I've heard of Poly. Versus dealer policy, I don't think it really sticks in the auto space because dealer seems to be the appendage as part of the name to a lot of things, whereas Poly is so unique, stands out, simple, warm, fuzzy, and it just
Yeah, I think dealer policy is a little more government, not so much.
It
Yeah,
also has a
yeah.
hint of we're trying to sell you something.
True.
Dealers
Yeah.
hate to be sold anything.
Anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well,
Good
super.
point.
Thank you. Any parting comments?
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for your support. Thank you for
No
your
problem.
support of women in retail. Putting us on the podcast was tremendous, and it was also good spending some time with you after the awards
I
ceremony.
really quite enjoyed that. It's really
Yeah.
quite fun. We went from everything. We touched on religion, politics for about 7 seconds, but then talked about the car business. It was a lot of fun. And,
Yeah.
and congratulations again. You know, something that's, again, there was 35, 40 women there. And to get an award like that, that's a big deal. That's
Yeah,
not just,
thank
you know, the company didn't go buy advertising space or anything like that. It's just something you got
Yeah.
for yourself, and
Yeah,
good
thank
for you.
you. Appreciate
thank
it.
you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Well done.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to our own channel.